My name is Ian Walsh, and this is the Masters of the Market episode with Chris Summers from Remax Access. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, no problem. You're one of the names that I needed to find and get in the city, and I needed to get you on board here because you're one of those guys that there's so much real estate moving through your office that it's important that anybody that's in the game can hear from you to see what you think of it, because you kind of get a different level pulse from, say, a normal brokerage that may do, 10, $20 million in sales in a year, which isn't bad, but you get to see a huge scope of real estate transactions on a yearly basis. And with that said, I'm just going to give some background to everybody watching that doesn't know Chris's, call it statistics. So stay in your seat while I brag about you a bit. Chris last year did $120 million in sales. Remax Access office did over $300 million in sales. They were the top Remax office in Philadelphia, as well as number 2 in the region. So, Chris, you know a thing or two about real estate, which I think is situated in that opening. And I usually like to ask people, which is most important to me. I have gotten, and I think it's most important to me, and it should be most important to people that are in the market, in the game, which is, you've seen, how long have you been doing it, Chris? How long have you been doing real estate?
I'm getting a little older, Ian, so I kind of forget. Now, I got my license in 2004, so that's about 12, 13 years, which really isn't that long in the big scheme of things.
It's not, but you got to see 2008, right? Which is the only thing that right now we all really care about is, hey, we all survived it. I got in the game as 2008 was happening, so I got to see a lot of things that, if you were there, you got to experience potentially a once-in-a-lifetime cycle. So what did you see from where we are back then, what happened back then to where we are now, and where is the market sitting now from what you can see from an investment standpoint and a retail standpoint?
Well, I mean, the market has been certainly amazing, the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. The demand in Philly has been constant and stable during that time frame, or strong growth, especially with new construction, and especially with all the amazing things happening, in a lot of different neighborhoods, like all over the city, which is propelling the growth. We talk about the tax abatements sometimes. That's been, a huge, catalyst, for growth and continued growth and so forth. For us, I mean, it was nice, like you said, being in that down market. You can learn a lot, with down markets. I think as both a realtor and an investor, I just recall back then, I remember, instead of us kind of like not doing anything, we kind of doubled down, with marketing costs and strategies like during those down markets. And that really kind of helped us grow our market share after that. And me as an investor, I bought personally a number of properties like during that time frame. And now I'm sitting here, with a nice, inventory of properties, and looking back, I'm like, hey, I'm glad, that, I purchased a lot of properties. I'm glad that we helped a lot of homeowners, build a lot of equity during that time frame. But that certainly doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue to do that now. The opportunity is still there now. A lot of us talk about being towards the end of this real estate market cycle, which maybe we're a year away, 2 years away. But there's typically always opportunities, and I think that's a case by case basis, whether you're an owner occupant or an investor, looking at your specific goals.
Sure. So it's interesting you say that. You bring up something that I like to touch on, which is so in 2008, you guys doubled down and went after it, right? And that was the time that the word real estate was a bad word to use. I mean, nobody wanted to be near it. And I found this too from being in it, was when everybody's running away from something, it's usually when you want to be getting after something. So everybody's running one way, you want to run the other, and you guys did that. There's a lot less room for error during a time like that, because there's not a lot of money flying around necessarily. But if you execute properly, which we did as well for what we do, you look back in 8 years and you're seeing, reaping the benefits and the rewards of what you did maybe 8 or 9 years ago, as opposed to, it's not like necessarily what you did 3 months ago. You don't see it for a bunch of years, depending on how much energy you put in at that time. And I always talk about, I joke with people, I say, look at the guys that bought everything in 2008, 2009. I'm like, they look like, how'd they do that? I wish I did that. Everybody says, I wish I did that. And you get to a point, and there's just a natural real estate cycle where it'll happen to some extent again. And I believe that people will be more prepared this time. I don't think everybody was ready for that last time. But I think a lot of people will be ready to go and to do what you did. And fortunately, you caught it at the greatest cycle we've ever seen. And you're right as well. I would agree with what you said, which is there's still a lot of opportunity in the market. You just have to know how to buy it. You've got to know, what your risks are, and then be patient. I think patience is a good thing too at this point in the market. Be disciplined with your numbers. You know what you can make money at. You know what you're capable of. What are you seeing with like new construction and your flippers? What are they doing right now? Or maybe your experienced ones that have been doing this for quite some time that work with you. How are they treating the market at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a lot of developers. A lot of those developers were fortunate to get lot acquisition, back, during those years where the lot prices, were reasonable, or looking back, it was a steal. So they've had more inventory, to be able, to build on properties that they've had for a while. I think where, some of the developers are struggling now, or maybe new developers, is trying to find, lots where they can acquire, or whatever it might be. I probably get several phone calls a week from people, I don't know who they are. Got any warehouses? Got any lots for sale? Got development opportunities? Well, they're here and there, but it's just harder to acquire something today, where the numbers work. Now, the people that have obviously have done that, or you still can when the opportunities come up, are then able, to build and build a great product, which in this market, the good news is, let's say it's maybe 350 to 550 is a very much of a sweet spot in the new construction market, Ian, because the buyer pool is so strong. It continues to be strong, due to a combination of, people want to be in these neighborhoods. Why rent when you can own? Interest rates are low, 10-year tax abatement. So when you put that formula together in terms of just the continued growth of our local economy, that formula, should continue us to have another strong couple of years. I kind of use like the people have heard me say this before, like the baseball analogy.
Okay.
Where maybe we're in the 8th or the 9th inning of this real estate cycle, but if you're ever at a baseball game, innings 8 and 9 take forever, due to all the relief pitchers, a guy coming in throwing one pitch. So like the last couple of years of real estate cycle could, it's hard to predict when it's going to stop. It could go on for an extended period of time, but at the same time, cautious, be smart, that kind of thing too. Don't be over leveraged, with what you're doing, but just be smart.
That's a good point. Yeah, we don't know how long innings 8 and 9. That's really neat. I've never heard that. And it's, nobody actually knows where the top is, right? We all just have indications of being in the game as to what we see. And even when the top happens, if your position's okay, you're still fine. And then you're really ready to change your strategy as the market turns for you. And I'm sure you'll just double down again when that happens for you. And that's what'll happen. And we can do this interview again in 10 more years, and you can tell me how you double all your properties and so forth.
Ready. We'll see. I'm not right every time. No one's right all the time, but
that's right.
And then, for the people that have the buy and hold strategy, like if you get back to the investors, well, I mean, you're okay with those fluctuations because typically, rents are covering your mortgage. If you have debt service, if you own the properties outright, those cycles just don't really matter as much. If an investor plans on holding properties 10 to 20 to 30 years, it's just more of a constant, acquisition if that's the goal.
That makes sense. Now, so you definitely got a very good pulse on real estate cycles, and you timed it very well last time in terms of the way you positioned yourself. So what's your plan? All right, so we don't know where the top is. We know we're all going to make money while we go there, right? You're not going to stop real estate and wait, right? You can't do that. So what are you going to do? How are you adjusting your business or your plans according to what you see over the next 5 years, call it? Let's say 8th and 9th inning or coming in the next 2 or 3, whatever, 5-year plan. How does your business and how do you adjust?
Well, I think, for our bread and butters, we help tons of consumers, buyers and sellers. I really specialize more in the listing side, and my team, helps a lot of buyers. I think that's just more just doing great work. At the end of the day, people are going to be successful and do more business, have repeat clients, referrals, just by being excellent at what you do. And I think if people just kind of focus on the basics and simplicity, that will kind of take care of itself no matter what happens. If someone's looking at it more on the investor front, again, it's just kind of be, cautious per se. I was fortunate. I just built a like a new construction triplex in South Kensington.
Oh, nice.
Strong market right now. Sold that for a nice number. Otherwise, like if I have a tenant that might have moved out of one of my rentals that I purchased 5 or 10 years ago, maybe I get liquid on that, use that perhaps, to pay, income tax bills, because, we got to plan ahead for that. We're just kind of moving around a little bit, and kind of continue to the diversification, get liquid where you can, reinvest where you can, maybe look, to do, the tax-free exchange. I don't really do that too often. I should probably look into that. So I think it's just kind of, be a case by case, but continue. Don't sit back and do nothing, because you don't want to be in cash, and just do nothing, because the opportunities are out there, especially if you have the right people around you to help, guide to that capacity.
Yeah, and it's funny you say. I mean, cash is a position, right? But I do have there's a lot of people that are holding a lot of cash right now. I actually have a guy, a good friend. I'm sure we both probably know him. I said, hey, what are you doing with those? He had a bunch of properties in a certain area of the city, and I said, hey, I got a couple of guys that probably want them around this number, whatever it was. And he said, he goes, honestly, I can't. He goes, I'm sitting on so much cash right now. I don't need more cash. So there's guys in that position too, and I think he's positioning himself and potentially ready for to come in and buy a lot of stuff. But he's moved up into a lot of different kind of projects. Actually, if we don't know him, I'll talk to you about him after this. You probably want to get to know him.
Sure.
So do you have anything you could leave the people watching this? Now, the people watching this are going to be anywhere from brand new investors that are just getting in it to some seriously polished players. What would you leave them with? Like, what would you say about where we are and so forth?
I mean, I think there's still, like we just talked about, there is room to run, and there's always opportunities that are out there. I think that the goal is just be ready to pounce on something when something comes up. I saw a property in South Kensington come up a couple weeks ago. I owned a property 2 doors down. So as soon as it was listed, I contacted the broker. I'm like, hey, what's it going to take to get this done? You do both sides of the commission. Boom, you had a deal, signed the next day. But I think you can't really do that unless A, you're on top of the market, or B, you're connected with someone that's on top of the market, number one. And number two, have your info together, whatever it is, whether it's cash in the bank, whether it's your pre-approval for financing. Be ready to take advantage of opportunities when they come, because sometimes they're not going to come that often. So when they do, be ready, or don't be like too nervous and willy and needing to get like a million contractor estimates. Like if it feels right, sometimes you just have to trust your intuition and let the process play out. And you'll learn more about that process than by not doing much at all. So
Sure.
I think knowing that the foundation is there, there's amazing things happening with Philadelphia. I'm not really as keen on local politics, but as far as like the growth and all the industries that support our local economy and neighborhood, there's a lot of opportunity for investors to make money in this market, even though we might be quote towards the end of the cycle.
So be ready, know your market, and be ready to take action. I mean, that's the name of the game, man. I always tell, I'm a big, what people can take away a lot from that statement too is your market. I mean, you really know your market, and some people underestimate what that means. But if you know it and there's an opportunity in front of you, last thing you want to do is come up short on funds, right? So you've got to make sure you have the money and you're ready to go. You don't want to overthink it and then look back in 2 years, the guy who just bought it made an extra couple $100,000 on a deal that went right through your fingers that you knew you should have taken. So be ready and have the money.
And maybe like the other thing to add to it, don't lose a deal over $1,000.
Right.
$1,000. Have some balls. Like kind of like be brave, because like if the deal is going to work, it's going to work with your number and maybe plus a little bit too.
Sure.
So like me, there's nothing worse than maybe like not getting something over like something that's going to be fractional or immaterial over a period of time, or even of that moment too.
It's crazy that $1,000 that I've seen on transactions really is not. It's not actually money seeping into the deal. It's ego a lot of times, and you're just like, come on, man. Like put the emotions aside. We're both here to make money. Let's do it. So I mean, you've definitely seen that more than I have in terms of the world you're in. But yeah, it's crazy. People can break deals over nothing. But it is what it is. So Chris, I really appreciate you coming on. You're obviously a killer in the city. You get it done, and anybody that watches this is going to benefit. If I wanted to contact you or your team, how would I do that? It's really
Well,
good.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're very much well known on all the social media channels. So there's
True.
the Summers team at Philadelphia on Facebook. Yeah, there's myself, Chris Summers on Facebook. Yeah, like Trump, we're very much active on Twitter. So you can
Okay.
find us on Twitter, the Summers team, yeah, Philly Realty, or just old school email or text.
Okay. It's the Summers team. It's SOMERS, correct?
Correct.
Correct. And everybody knows I'm Ian Walsh with Hard Money Bankers, Ian at hardmoneybankers.com. And just like Chris said, I'm all over social media on Facebook, Ian Walsh or Hard Money Bankers of Pennsylvania. So, Chris, I thank you very much for doing this, and blessings to your to future deals.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Kudos on your success as well, Ian.
Thanks, man.